welcome to another episode of Bloom. I am especially excited to introduce you all to our next guest. This episode is particularly great to me for many reasons that I'll explain in a little bit. But our next guest, Chef Joe, is a corporate chef at Rosa Mexicano. If you have never heard of them, you need to definitely check them out. They have some of the best guacamole as well as other contemporary Mexican cuisine that I have ever had. My husband and I can both attest to that. They have several locations in New York City, New Jersey, National Harbor, and Chef Joe has over 25 years in the business. And I want to welcome him to Bloom. Come on out.
Thank you for having me, Kia.
Thank you for being here. I'm so happy to have you. So I just want to go ahead and let everyone know I've obviously known you for a very long time. You are best friends with my brother. So you are a brother to me also. I mean, you've been there pretty much my entire life since I was a little girl. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because for me, I don't know if I ever told you, but you've definitely been an inspiration. I mean, I remember you in Queens, in the kitchen, making these amazing meals, and you always let us taste it. So it's been amazing for me to watch from afar that you made your dream blossom into reality and have achieved such a great level of success. So I also want to say, a lot of our guests here are women. But I wanted to bring you on because I felt like your story could be a major inspiration to not only a lot of women, but other men and other people who are looking to break into your industry. So thank you again for being here. I definitely appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It was, when you asked me, I wouldn't even hesitate at the opportunity for more than one reason, for more than many reasons. My mom raised me, so, it's just a great feeling to just have a woman's inspiration in everything that I did, as far as the cooking and along the lines of my career. She just knew how to push me. And that's the great inspiration that I have from her that's really helped me out throughout my entire career.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do as a corporate chef? What does your day-to-day life look like?
So I oversee many restaurants, going into them, each location. I usually designate myself one day out of the week just to kind of be corporate and be that strong hand in the office, because there's just a lot of paperwork that needs to be done. And between checking, inventories, between checking food costs, managing, when you're managing, 10 different, 12 different restaurants, you're managing so many different personalities, whether it's men or women, and the staff, and being there 15 years, the staff has really, grown to be part of my family as well. I always say they're my second family. And, I go to a location, and I think it's key to understand, when you walk in and everyone's name, it's just a good feeling. And they have that level of respect. I know, I liked my COO and my vice president always says, "Why are you always in the restaurants?" And I have a saying that I really don't want to remove myself too far away from the enchilada. So it's a little cliche, to say the least, but they get a kick out of it. And it's the truth. You want to experience what the everyday operator is experiencing. And without losing touch or sight of the business, they know that I relate to them. So it's one of those things where they know where I'm at in the stage of my career, where, I kind of just, do a lot of pointing. And when I do need to get behind the line, they know I won't hesitate.
Yeah,
I would never tell them to go do something that I wouldn't do myself. So
think about that. You mentioned that you walked the walk. I mean, you've been there. So, I mean, you started out, from very humble beginnings in your career, and you've worked your way up to where you are now. And I think there's a certain level of respect that is given to people like you who can actually relate to every single person, no matter where they are in their career along the journey, now that they're up underneath you. So I think that's amazing. So can you tell us how you actually, found your passion?
So, it was, and I'm pretty sure you can remember when I used to pull up to the house, and I actually, at a very young age, me and your brother, obviously, we worked
Yeah.
very, very hard at a very young age, and we just we weren't afraid of hard work. So, and when I started out, I had the opportunity, and I was blessed to have what they call a catering truck. And these catering trucks, they're still around. A lot of other, cafeterias have replaced them. But I used to go and wake up very early in the morning and load up my catering truck with food. And it was costing me a pretty penny. And then one day my mother looked over to me and she goes, why don't we make our own food? So we bought the containers. Between her and I, we just started making our little plates of, fried chicken, French fries, or we did, some rice and beans and red beans. And it was one of those things where it got to the point where it was so popular that the company I was buying food from, they they asked my mother if she wanted to start selling them some food. Um, and it became this little, we called it, being that my middle name is Jay, and it was one of those things where we called it Mama Jay's Catering. And it was till this day, that's what all the boys in town, all the kids, and, growing up, that's what they called us. It was Mama Jay's Catering because we would do catering for this commissary that they called it. And it was just a niche. And, at the time, my mom she wasn't working, and I was working, and my sister was going to school. And it was one of those things that it helped out. It was 5, 6, 7, $800 a week. And I'm talking
wow.
30 years ago. And, my sister used to go to school, and they used to say, you were helping your mother cook, right? Because you smell like French fries. She would smell like oil. So it's kind of like a little bit of a gag. And up to this day, we kind of get a chuckle over it because, that's how mom, inspired me. And she taught me how to cook. Like, I would get in the kitchen with her, and, she wouldn't use measuring cups. And I said, Ma, someday I want to write a cookbook with you. And she was like, oh, just measure, this is how you measure how much water you're going to put into the rice. I said, Ma, that doesn't fly in the restaurant business. So again, we got chuckles over it, and she was like, "Oh, I don't use measuring spoons." I said, "You're gonna have to if you want me to write this cookbook about you. I need to start measuring. If you use 3 cups of water, 2 cups, whatever it is." And then she finally gave in, and we started jotting down some things and some recipes, and she was, a great inspiration.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that story before.
Yeah, she was, she taught us a lot. Monty and the boys used to come over and she would feed them. Monty and Kimber would never leave, the house, not hungry. So it was one of those things where they would love to come over, and, their excuse was they were coming to pick me up or have you, and we were going to go play some ball or something. But I think they were really just coming to eat.
Probably so. I spoke briefly about how I used to always cook in Mama Liz's house, our house, when I was growing up as a little girl. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you too, but when you would leave, my brother Tavy and we would cook crayons on the stove. So you inspired us too.
Oh my God.
But honestly, being around you and seeing your love for food and creating art has definitely inspired the entire family. It makes it more of an enjoyable experience. So what your mother passed on to you, it definitely radiates with all of us for sure. So definitely got to let you know that. So I know you graduated from New York Restaurant School in 1992. Did you have any obstacles along the way throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was at a very young age, I was inspired that I knew what I wanted to do. And when I graduated culinary school, I was entrenched in, just trying to pursue my career. So I started out as this small place called C3. It was underneath a hotel, Washington Square Hotel in the city, and it was we were busy. We were for a small restaurant, 60 seats. We were pretty busy. I remember a really close friend of mine, and he's out in Connecticut. And I came on board as an intern, and he quickly hired me, and it was very flattering. And
Wow.
I'm talking about 25 years ago, maybe even longer. He paid me top dollar. And I never, well, I understood it, but at the same time, years down the road, when he paid me top dollar, and I'm talking top dollar, we were getting paid per shift, and he gave me $70 per shift. That was top dollar back then. But up to this day, he's still a good buddy of mine. And he said, maybe about 15 years later, after I moved on, he said, I said to him, Chuck, why'd you pay me more than so-and-so, the line cooks and everybody else? He said, because I knew you would make it. And that was very flattering to me. And years down the road, he got married. This big plush wedding in Connecticut, invited me in, and I was his best man. And it was a great experience. And up to this day, he has his own cooking channel as well on Instagram, and he does all this stuff from Connecticut. And he's really, really proud of me. And he's one of those guys who he inspired me along the ways. He just knew so much about, every single cuisine, and Charles Simmons. And, he's really a great chef, and he's out in Avon, Connecticut, and he's definitely been an inspiration. And for that challenge, to overcome that challenge, and when I first started, it just motivated me. And then I knew from working there that I just didn't want to be a line cook. There are some people who will just settle, and they're happy with just being, a line cook. But Chuck inspired me, that he was like, you can be so much more. And I knew that I needed to do more when, I went above and beyond all the time. And he would tell me, well, back then we got paid per shift. We didn't get paid per hour. So you got paid the same amount, whether you worked 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. It was just the demand. So, there was times he would kick me out, and I would stay to close. And it was very flattering that he said, you know what? It wasn't even 2 months after I started my internship, he hired me. And then after another maybe 6 months, I was in charge of the kitchen. I was the sous chef of the kitchen. And just coming out of culinary school, where, there's this generation now that go to culinary school, and they come out and they think they're a master chef. And it's not that easy. It just really isn't.
So what advice would you give to a new culinary graduate that is getting into the business and wants to follow like your similar footsteps?
A lot of things. I mean, one of them is, I had a chef that I worked for. He always told me, never follow a recipe. Just make it taste good. I was like, okay. So why do we have recipe books? He was like, just listen to me. If you know the basics, just follow your heart. And I was like, okay. And, another way, same chef, he was like, don't watch the clock. The time will pass if you keep busy. And it did. I look at the clock, and I'm working 10 hours, and I'm like, I got to go home. There's a balance that you need to have. And, once you learn that balance and you focus on what you need to focus on, you'll succeed, and you'll go so far in your career. If you kind of don't watch the clock, there's times after, and there's another inspirational book that I read that I picked it up 3 times already. It's by Anthony Bourdain, and it's Kitchen Confidential. You've probably seen it, and God rest his soul, may he rest in peace. But it just tells you in detail about the restaurant industry, and it's a great book. And he tells a lot about the way restaurant industry is, and it's not all guts and glory. We do sit down in the we'll sit down on a milk crate, so to speak, to eat our meal. When you're a line cook, you just don't have the time because you're constantly on the move. So just
Wow.
be
Wow.
patient. Be patient is one of the things that, and just try to do everything. Try to do everything and anything, and don't say no.
And don't say no.
Mm-hmm.
Who should they be looking for as far as mentorship?
Mentorship. When I was coming up, I found mentorship in a lot of people. Like I found it in, the line cook that's been there for 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's the line cook for 15 years for a reason. You find mentorship because one, he has stability. He's definitely loyal. He definitely has the skills, or else he would not be working there. And I found mentorship and sort of like not companionship, so to speak, but I found their expertise in that sort of form because they were there for such a long time.
Oh,
I got a
absolutely.
gentleman now who's been with us for over 30 years, and every time he says something, I listen. I mean, I've been there 15, but it was like I've always actually listened to him because he's not. Some people may say he's just he's been there so long and he's cranky. No, he knows our business.
Everyone adds value to the team.
I agree.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, that's basically what you're saying. I love that. So I want to switch gears just a little bit, and I want to talk about your weight loss journey. I mean, you have lost a significant amount of weight over the last few years. Can you tell us how much weight you've lost and what that whole process has been like for you?
I lost about 70 pounds, and it is so tough in the industry. And when I tell you, I actually, it was a journey that I was determined, and I transformed. When I tell you, I tried every single diet in the world. I tried it, from intermediate fasting, and no knock on any of these diets. It's
Right.
it fits certain people. It just didn't fit me, and from weight loss pills to you name it. I chose a lifestyle. I chose a lifestyle of a low carb diet, and it made me, it gave me more energy. It gave me the ability to, I had some, minor health issues with doctor one day prescribed me with fatty liver, and I was just, a little scared. And it was one of those things where I did so much research, it troubled me and it drove me insane. It gave me anxiety to the point of like, I have to lose weight. I have to lose weight. But I didn't know what to do. So I started this low carb diet, and I just started, I started seeing the difference. And it was a lot of determination. I mean, listen, I'm around food at least 14 hours a day. At least 14 hours a day. And there are certain things, we go out with fellow, coworkers, and you have a beer here, you have a beer there, and all of a sudden, you're having 3 or 4 beers, and then you got to go home, and then you're hungry, and then you eat something when you get home. So I made a conscious decision, and I cut the beer out. I definitely cut down on the drinking. There's a lot of carbs, and depends on what sort of alcoholic beverage you drink. And
Very true.
I started just being aware of, okay, I cut out, I cut out things like rice, pasta. I ate bread maybe about once a week. I just didn't want to just go cold turkey on bread, because that was one of my downfalls, because I used to go to Italian restaurants and I'll take another basket. I just couldn't stop eating bread. And that's what really put a toll on a lot of the weight. And when I finally got to a year into it, it didn't become a diet anymore. It was just the way of life. Like, it's like now I watch what I eat. I don't sit there and I don't have a full bowl of rice. I don't have a full bowl of beans, or I don't eat breaded chicken cutlets. I'll do something a little bit more healthier where I'll do a cauliflower rice with breaded chicken. I'll pick and choose my carbs where maybe I'm having about maybe 2 to 3, maybe 400 grams of carbs a day, no more than that. And it's, I'm not sitting there and eating a ton of food, and it's helped. It's really helped.
That's amazing. And I would imagine you're probably pretty active too, in at work, on your feet probably the majority of the time, meeting with people, talking with people. So I'm sure that probably contributes some too.
Yeah, that's why it's good, when you're bouncing around from restaurant to restaurant, or even when I'm traveling, I'm very conscious of what I eat. And it's one of those things where, it's to the point where people around me are watching what I eat, but not being, they're not being cruel about it. Like, what are you doing? They're not that way with me. They just respect that I've lost this amount of weight, and they want to make sure that I, maintain it. And that's great support. Like when I go out to eat with people, they actually make the conscious decision of that. I don't want to go to a place where, like, for instance, if we chose pizza, they choose a place that has cauliflower pizza for me, which has become very flattering. And it's, they've seen my journey. And I tell everybody, tell my girlfriend, I'm not going back. I am not going back.
Yeah.
And she's the one who, like, okay, she'll choose the right place that she wants me to eat with her. And that's amazing to have that kind of support.
It really is. I mean, losing 70 pounds, that's not an easy journey whatsoever. I mean, and you have done a great job at cultivating a circle that will encourage you and support you, along your journey, because it's continuous, like you said. So I think that is awesome. Look at your before and after. That's amazing.
I know. I actually, I review those some from time to time when I feel like, I may have, maybe touched on a little bit too many carbs, and it's great to see that. And then I just, nope, I can't go back. I can't.
Yeah.
I went in those pictures. I went from a double X on the chef jacket to a large.
Wow.
They were the one on the left was my first headshot. And then when I lost all the weight, everyone was so supportive. They said they actually brought in a photographer and said, we need to get you a new headshot. And that was so great to see those. So they were very supportive, very supportive.
Oh, that's amazing. So if you're watching this and you have people along your journey who are not encouraging you and supporting you, fire them. Get rid of them and replace them with supportive people.
Exactly.
End of story. So tell me also how has this changed your life? How has it inspired you, or has it changed you as a chef? Has it, made you feel healthier and better, or how has it, like, your healthy eating, like, inspired you in general?
Well, it's given me the inspiration to try and coach others without being over the top and without actually, having, and then I show them my journey, and they get inspired. They get truly inspired. And, when I tell you, when I felt really, really overweight, I used, in the Spanish culture and Rosa Mexicano, you could say it's kind of cruel, but they used to, like, kind of make jokes. I know I had this one young lady who, once I lost all the weight, and she came up to me one day and she couldn't find my belly anymore. So she made a joke about it. She goes, "Oh, you'll be back the same way in a couple of months." And that was, clearly she was joking, but that inspired me not to go back. Like, I'm not, and, some people may think that's like cruelty, but this is a world we live in, and I tell kids and, my daughters, and who, thank God, they're not, overweight. And it's like, but you got to understand, people are cruel. And it's something that, unfortunately, it's the world we live in, and it's sad, but, that's the inspiration I get. And it helped me along the journey. Like I said, I'm not going back. And I get inspired too when I see you in the gym.
Oh,
I can't even do half the stuff you do, but it is
oh my
inspiring.
goodness. Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely I love to work out. So we're inspiring each other, I'll say that.
That's good. That's good.
In many ways. So I want to also ask you, obviously you've achieved a great level of success in your career. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of what you do now?
Well, it's good to, when people notice. One of the things I had the privilege of doing was I went to Dubai for 3 weeks, and opened up two restaurants in the midst of, my mother getting sick. And it was a
Mm,
struggle because it was, 3.5 weeks of just gut wrenching. At the time I wasn't a corporate chef. I was just the regional chef. My corporate chef, he calls me up and he goes, "Can you go to Dubai and open up these two restaurants?" And I said, absolutely. His wife was expecting their first baby and he didn't want to be away from her. And I totally understood. So he flew me out to Dubai, which was probably one of the greatest experiences I've had. And in Dubai, it is a different culture. And, a lot of people have the misconception of the Middle East. And it was such a great experience where one of the training managers or the VP of operations, he said, "This gentleman, he's been on YouTube, you name it." And what they did, they went home, some of the people that I was training, they went home and YouTubed my name. And it was pretty amazing. The next day when we came to work, they kept coming up to me and I felt like I was some sort of star. And I was like, it
oh,
was just a video on making guacamole. They were like, "Oh my God, chef, we saw you on YouTube. We saw you on YouTube." I was like, "Thank you." It was very humble with stuff like that, but it's also, that thing like, wow, that's for, the people in Dubai, the people I was training, I thought that was sort of like an accomplishment that I was like, okay, so maybe YouTube, it's a big deal.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah, so that was like one of my I would say is the highlight when people say, "Oh, you went to the Middle East." I said, "Yeah, I went to Dubai," and it was amazing because it was like the second time I was kind of alone with opening up restaurants. Because when I went to Panama, um, it was sort of the same thing. I wasn't a corporate chef yet, and the corporate chef goes into the kitchen and he turns on the blender and makes a mess, and then he walks out of the kitchen and he looks at me and he goes, "This is your opening." So I was like, "All right, thank you, chef." And then, I succeeded, and then I made sure, and I was there for another 3.5 weeks, and I opened up, a location that was, it was extremely difficult because in Panama they kind of move at a different pace. And, you know, going back to the Dubai scene, it was the people in Dubai are so grateful for what, I was able to teach them, and they, extremely attentive. Like everyone was watching you. Everyone was
Hmm.
focused on you. And like I said, it was a culture that I was and they took care of me. They're like, "Chef, what do you need?" Like I would just go to get something to drink and they wouldn't even let me get something to drink. "I got it. You stay here." I'm like, "No, I can go get something to drink." They were just that sort of it was very comforting to be around, and, very attentive, and they wanted to learn.
Oh, I love that you had that experience. We actually went to Dubai also as a family in 2019, and I mean, I worked for the DoD at the time, and you
Okay.
know, yeah. So you have all these negative perceptions sometimes of what, like you said, what the Middle East is like, and I'm telling you, going there, I totally agree with you. I mean, everyone was just so welcoming. The service was a next level that I've never experienced ever before, and it was just, I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And the food, I mean, it was, we have to go back. We
Yeah,
definitely have to go
I
back.
say that all the time, and unfortunately, there was a franchisee sort of restaurants that we opened up, and one was in the Dubai Mall, and the other one was in the Meredith Mall. And they're unfortunately they're closed right now, but they were successful while they were around, and it was just one of those things they just couldn't maintain, and unfortunately they closed.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, hopefully there are brighter days in the future.
Yes.
So I have a feeling who you're going to say for this next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So who would you say has inspired you most in life?
Definitely my mom. She's, from a culinary standpoint, she has been that person to push me. She pushed me in so many ways. And on the other side, my girls, my girls are an inspiration. I mean, I went, everything I did, I did for them. Long hours, when you're missing softball games, when you're missing things like that. And, it's difficult. And you just want to provide for them. So they inspired me to be better, and to make sure that they were able to not have to do the struggling. And for the most part, they've gotten themselves on the right track, which is inspiring to me, that my hard work has paid off in some way or another. And then my mom, she was the catalyst, because she was the one who she pushed me. And when I was stuck, she would give me these little quirky ideas, and I would flip them and turn them into, something new and innovating. And she didn't realize it. I would come home and tell her, hey, this is what I did, or for the idea. She goes, that's not what I told you. But I said, wow, but I couldn't use the exact, your same idea. I needed to kind of give it a new kick and freshen it up. And, it was it was pretty funny, the conversations we used to have about the food, and, that I don't use enough this, I don't use enough that. And then you get to the point of like, all right, Mom, we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. And she was, like I said, she would sit there and she would make sure that it tastes good at the end of the day.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to be secretly waiting for this cookbook to come out, just to be honest with you.
I mean, I just started to do, my other passion is photography. I went out and I bought myself this super, super expensive equipment. I love taking pictures of food, as you can see from my Instagram handle. But it's like one of those things I take pictures. 90% of my pictures on my phone, and I have about maybe 8,000 to 9,000, are food. And people are like, I go out to eat dinner and they're like, oh, you're taking more pictures. Yeah, I want to remember my meal, not only in my stomach, but I also want to see it visually, because, it's the true meaning of people eat with their eyes. And it's the visual aspect of it that I've actually, have grown to fall in love with, because I look at, food photography like that's, when I'm retired, I want to do that. I'd love to do that. I'm in the process of trying to set up my apartment in like some sort of corner, like some sort of studio, so I can, take photography to a next level.
Oh, that's beautiful. I saw that garlic bread that you had on your Instagram page. It looks amazing. So we're definitely going to let everyone know how to follow your journey and all your amazing food pictures on your Instagram page as well, because it looks amazing. I love it. So let me ask you, so when you're not at work, what else do you enjoy doing? I've always heard that chefs, when they're home, they don't enjoy cooking. Is that the same with you, or are you the other way around?
That is the total opposite. I love to cook when I'm at home. I try my best to cook at least, like I'm off usually Saturday and Sunday. So like I'll start prepping something tonight so that I can cook either tomorrow or Sunday. So it's like a process, because, I want to probably cook something I haven't had in a, couple of weeks, couple of days, whatever it is. But like, for instance, I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to move for ribs. So I'm going to cook ribs on Sunday. And she was like, well, okay. It was just out of the blue conversations. And, so I'm already thinking in my head, what I'm going to do. And I guess I'm the total opposite. I mean, I've learned to be able to cook, in the house how I want to eat. And you'll see that I won't, there's not much, like if I'm eating potato salad, I'll have just a little bit. If I'm having macaroni salad, just have a little bit. And it's just because, my lifestyle of eating has transformed, and it's everybody says, well, you're still on it. You're still on that low carb diet. I'm like, it's not a diet anymore. And the cooking is, I get more joy, and like I'll take pictures, and you've probably seen, like I do this pork loin where I take this pork loin and I open it up, and then I stuff it with sausage, and then I wrap it with bacon, and it's like I call it the bacon trifecta, the pork loin. So, and then I serve it in slices, and it's like, and over a very mild mushroom sauce, and people are like, wow.
I know, I'm blown away just hearing about it.
That's just some of the stuff I love to cook, in my spare time. It's not a bad idea cooking this week, but this weekend.
So let me ask you, so for us, individuals at home who are trying to prepare a meal, do you have any tips for us on how we can elevate our meals and take it to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of things you can do. And for me, one of the things is, plating china, and people think like, oh, well, I got regular china, and then I went back before and I told you, just make it taste good. And there's things that, use, I like to tell people to use ingredients they've never used before. Like, for instance, if you never, maybe you had never used persimmons, or you never used pomegranates, things that you've never used before, even if you have to look them up and see what they go with, because you can make a very delicious barbecue sauce out of pomegranates. And,
really?
I inspire people to just like use different ingredients, because it just gives you a different element to your food. And people look at you like, oh, this is pomegranate barbecue sauce? I was like, yeah. And, pomegranate, I guess because I'm going to the healthier side, pomegranates, it's an antioxidant. So it helps to know, the different sort of minerals and vitamins that you get from each new element of surprise. There's people say, well, you used what? What herb did you use? Or what is that called? Like, there's a fruit that I like to use, and you can only use the zest. Oh. And you may or may not have heard of it. It's called the Buddha's hand. So
I've never heard of that.
When you look it up, it's a really strangely looking citrus fruit that you can only use the outside rind of it. And when I tell you, a lot goes a long way. What I normally do with something like that, because you get one, you zest it all, you use what you're going to use, and then you freeze the rest. And then you freeze the rest and you use it when you want. Like, I normally use it like when I'm making a beurre blanc, so to speak, which is a white wine butter sauce. I'll put this zest in it to give it that lemon flavor for my fish. So those things is like the things that you use different ingredients, and there's stuff that, the other day I was making a salad, and it was for Valentine's Day, and I put strawberries, I made a raspberry vinaigrette, blue cheese, and it was like, wow, and I used candy walnuts, just the little things. And like, I know it's a very simple salad, and it's similar to like a very famous salad out there, but it's like, you don't know what's going to go well together. And I have a very strong belief that a lot of things that people go crazy for are mistakes. Mistakes is where people are like, we didn't know this was going to go well together. And, until they tried it, and then all of a sudden they became a genius at serving it. So I encourage people to definitely try new ingredients.
I love that. And it's almost like also the message in that is, don't be afraid of failure. Also, it's the same. It resonates in many different ways.
I agree. That's very good to say as well, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, what if it doesn't come out right? I was like, well, you don't know until you try.
Right, exactly. I love that. So tell me, what is your favorite thing to make? Favorite dessert, favorite meal? What's your go-to?
I have a lot of go-tos. I am I love clams. I am a huge clam, you name it. My go-to is Clams Casino. So Clams Casino is you dice up some peppers, some onions. You make sure it's small enough. You splash of white wine, and then you also take some raw bacon and you chop it up into little tiny cubes. So what you do is you take the veggies, you open up your clams. I like to use little mix. You open up your clams, you put a little bit of the sauteed veggies that has herbs and it has a little bit of white wine to it. Then you put a piece of raw bacon on it, and then you put it underneath your broiler, and they call it Clams Casino. But anything with clams, I can. I mean, I like to do a white wine and sausage clam sauce. I mean, and here's my downfall, because if I know I'm having clams, I got to make this crusty garlic bread so I can dip into the sauce. So the
Oh
sauce
my God.
is usually, I just bought a brand new pot, which you could just put the clams in and it goes right on the stove. You put all the ingredients in and it comes up by itself. But that the clams, I can have clams any day, any time of the week. And I guess as far as entrees go, I'm a big, I would say I'm a big like short ribs. I do like short ribs to, if they're nice and tender. I like to make a nice pot roast from time to time and making sure that's pretty good. Desserts, that's a good question. I mean, I'm pretty simplistic about desserts. I can, take a couple of bites of, a decent decadent chocolate cake, as long as it's not too sweet. With the change of the diet, I've weaned off myself, I think, off of sweets, and like I'll do one sugar in my coffee. But from time to time, I'll take a bite. I'll order a dessert. If you and I and friends are out, we'll get one dessert and we'll share one dessert. Just pass a couple of spoons, and that's it.
Oh my goodness. I'm officially hungry. That sounds amazing. And now I think you're gonna have to grace us on our virtual stage the next time and show us how to prepare one of those
That would be
amazing meals.
great. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely love that. Your choice. I think it would be amazing because you could also show us how to make an amazing date night meal at home, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Some people aren't able to get to a restaurant of their preference. So, I mean, that would be awesome. So, we would really, really enjoy that, Chef.
Well, you
So,
can definitely write me up for it.
yay! Very excited about that. So, I just want to thank you very much for being here. Did you have any final thoughts, any messages that you wanted to leave with our audience today?
Just it's been a long journey as far as my career and things that have transpired in it. That's I guess I just want to say to the chefs that are coming up, and it's a growing business, and just don't think when you come out of culinary school that you're going to be this 5-star chef, because it's a lot of hard work. And it's one of those things where people will, they will make sure that, they're successful, and you need to make sure that you're successful. So it's one of those things that you can't stop trying to do. Can't give up.
Don't give up. Follow your dreams. Do not give up. I love that message.
I agree.
Thank you so much, Chef Joe, my brother. I appreciate you
Thanks,
for taking the
sis.
time out to bestow your wisdom upon us and share some
Absolutely.
amazing tips with us. You have been amazing throughout my whole entire life, and I'm so happy that more people get to experience you and your amazing story. So I want to thank you again, and we will see you soon for part 2.
Yes, definitely. It'll be a cooking demo.
It'll be a cooking demo, definitely. So I love you, and
Awesome.
I hope you have a great day.
I love you too. Good night.
Good night.